Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for standing by and welcome to Visual BI's webinar. Today, we will be discussing Life After Xcelsius, where we will explore the various options available in SAP Lumira Designer and Visual BI extensions for Lumira Designer to help migrate existing SAP Xcelsius and BusinessObjects Explorer applications to SAP Lumira Designer or Analytics Cloud. During the presentation, all participants will be in listen-only mode. If you have a question during the presentation, please submit it via the Q&A portion of the screen. Simply type your question into the box and click the send button. Our presenter will address the questions at the end of the presentation, time permitting. If you don't hear an answer to your question today, don't worry, we will deliver answers to you individually after the webinar. The webinar is being recorded and a link to the replay will be sent to you via email. Presenting today is Gopal Krishnamurthy. Gopal is the CEO of Visual BI Solutions, a firm he founded in 2010 to transform the field of enterprise business intelligence and analytics. I will now turn the presentation over to the presenter.
Thank you, Darby. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm here to present Life After Xcelsius, and my name is Gopal Krishnamurthy, and I'm very excited to share this presentation. Before we get started, our usual disclaimer that this is just a Visual BI point of view, and I strongly recommend you to refer to SAP's roadmap and strategy document as well, and this is just our Visual BI's point of view regarding the migration. The agenda we have today is we will introduce Visual BI to you, and we will talk about SAP's analytics strategy and roadmap and how it is relevant to this topic and why we are even having a conversation about this, about having this migration. Why do we have to migrate from Xcelsius, or why is it really dying? Why Lumira Designer as an option for the migration? Why not SAP Analytics Cloud? Why are 100+ companies are using Visual BI extension either for the migration or for enhancing their Lumira Designer applications? And then we will touch a little bit on some of what is the involvement needed in the migration and some of the other options available for migration, and then we will open up for questions. Before I get started, I do wanted to tell you that this webinar is being recorded, and every one of you will get the recording as well as the slides of this presentation. So you don't have to be if you have to drop off partially, you will still be getting the entire slide deck and the recording. Let me have the pleasure today of introducing Visual BI to you, a firm that I founded in 2010 and we just turned 9 years old. The firm has been focusing principally around BI and analytics enablement for large enterprises. And because of the expertise that we have been bringing with our consulting services and our innovative software products and our training, we have gone on to become a trusted partner for 100+ customers worldwide. And I just wanted to give you a glimpse of our customers, and we are, growing at 4 to 5 customers, net new customers every month. And hopefully we may, very soon have more than 2 slides of customers as our software and services and our training requirements are sought after worldwide. Let's look into what do we really have to offer to the customers. Is the expertise is gained by giving a lot of strategy and roadmap to the customers. Lately, a lot of customers have been asking us about, how do I transition to the cloud, or how do I, enable self-service. So we do have a popular offering on evaluating self-service BI strategy for a lot of our customers. But most importantly, most of our success has come because of our ability to build very, very good data foundation for our customers. And in fact, the bulk of our revenue comes from either doing a cloud-based data warehouse in Azure or building a B4HANA migration to B4HANA, or building a HANA data warehouse in the cloud. Typically, the backend is what powers a lot of our beautiful visualizations and dashboards. What I wanted to also share is I touched on our innovative software product. Some of you are very familiar with our Visual BI extensions that we deliver for Lumira Designer, which I will be touching on at the end of this presentation on why 100 plus customers do use them, and then why is it highly rated and reviewed in the SAP App Center. I do wanted to mention that we will be coming out fairly soon with Power BI extension as well. And I'm very excited to announce our value driver tree product has been rebranded as ValQ, and it has its own website because a lot of customers have been asking more about it. And we just launched, or it's launching with Microsoft Power BI platform. It's one of the very innovative product that we are releasing for agile planning and simulation. It's something that Xcelsius was so good with doing what if analysis and simulation. I recommend you to check out valq.com. And also our third product, as there has been a proliferation in the market with multiple BI tools and managing multiple BI tools, able to smartly access the content. We released VBI View, and it is another exciting tool that a lot of you can use as part of your strategy to drive better BI adoption. Now, going deep dive into the crux of the webinar, let's just start with the strategy and roadmap from SAP. So if you look at SAP's, this is basically a screenshot from SAP's analytics and roadmap slide, right out of SAP's most current SAP's analytics solution portfolio slide. If you look at, there is a little bit of confusion going around, but that's one of the reasons I like to use actual SAP material to drive home the point that SAP is betting big on SAP Analytics Cloud, and it is right now able to successfully deliver the data discovery functionality. But if you look at some of the on-premise business objects, it's still very dominant when it comes to your reporting functionality like Crystal Reports and Web Intelligence. And Lumira Designer or Design Studio is still the dominant tool from a dashboard and application use case. And I know from a pure Excel-based Microsoft Office situation, analysis for Office is still loved by the users. So SAP principally basically putting these four tools as a combination for multiple different use cases. And then they have brought in Analytics Hub as a single point of contact for consuming their cloud artifacts created through Analytics Cloud and then on-premise business objects content. SAP is not right now, as of now, if you look at their hybrid strategy, which is what they are calling it as, they see both business objects and Analytics Cloud at least coexisting beyond for 2026. I know there are rumors there about 2020 and all that, but if you really pay close attention to a lot of the messaging that is coming in, Business Objects 4.3 release is being currently announced, and it's going to be coming out sometime in early 2020. What that means is if you migrate your business objects to 4.3 platform from 4.2, automatically you gain maintenance and support for at least 2026, or depending on your maintenance contract, it could be even beyond that, which means a customer today has more than close to 7 to 8 years to plan their cloud migration. Yes, if you are a greenfield customer, cloud is the future. But if you look at a lot of what SAP is trying to do, ease the transition from on-premise to the cloud. So they're building a lot of good connectivity from Webby data models or universe connectivity to Analytics Cloud. And at the same time, if you are already vested with business objects, rest assured you have quite a bit of a shelf life to plan your migration into the cloud. So this is the convergence strategy that they announced recently, sometime last year around Sapphire, right before the hybrid BI strategy, to provide, because the previous problem was SAP had numerous BI legacy tools, and that was causing a lot of frustration with customers. And so as a first part of the strategy, they focused on giving a migration path from a legacy BI tool, something like Xcelsius or a web application designer or an analysis for OLAP, and or even Bex Analyzer to come and standardize across 4 major tools, basically Webby, Crystal, Analysis for Office, and Lumira in the Business Objects suite of products. And then Analytics Cloud is basically a cloud-based BI product. And this is from the latest slide, which means SAP is still recommending that you consider Lumira 2.x for migrating from your Design Studio or Web Application Designer or Business Objects Dashboard. Now, when it comes to Analytics Cloud, because that is probably the only tool that you are hearing from a lot of the SAP reps on the field, because if you already own business objects, obviously the only thing that they can sell into is Analytics Cloud, and cloud is the future. So that's, you may get a feeling that, oh, there is no future for business objects. But if you really clearly look at it, SAP, this is again from the SAP's latest roadmap, both Lumira 2.x and Analytics Cloud have a place in them. And SAP is clearly laying out, if your use case is data discovery, what used to be a Lumira data discovery desktop tool, all of those features you can migrate to SAP Analytics Cloud. If you are a legacy Business Objects Explorer customer, you can migrate to SAP Analytics Cloud. If you are a Roam BI customer, you can migrate to SAP Analytics Cloud. And part of the reason, if you notice the one in the middle, SAP Business Objects Explorer, they are talking about the reason why Business Objects Explorer and Xcelsius is going out of support is basically because Adobe Flash is ending support. So you could clearly see this is a very well-defined migration path. But what is missing in this slide is, if you notice, you are at the bottom, you have a lot of your Explorer, Data Discovery, and Roam BI. But if you really look in the middle, your Web Application Designer, Business Objects Dashboards, Design, or Xcelsius, or your Design Studio, the recommended path is still Lumira 2.x. So given that clarity, some of you may be wondering, what if I'm just using Webby? SAP recently announced some of the customers an option to move to the cloud early for especially customers that are currently not using anything other than Webby. And there are some customers, you could technically work with your SAP rep to migrate your unused licenses in business objects to get going early on the cloud. And this is an option that I strongly recommend, because cloud is the future, and some of the customers that are not using their on-premise business objects as much potentially could have the conversation with SAP. Let's talk further. I touched on Xcelsius and Adobe Flash dying. So I wanted to basically get to give you a little bit of a history or the timeline, because this tells you a good idea about why we are even having this webinar or having this topic. If you look at Xcelsius, it was some of you here, the old timer Xcelsius on the webinar can relate to the infomercial. It was released as Xcelsius in 2003, and then the tool was at that time was so hot that SAP Business Objects acquired them in 2005, and the tool was still extremely hot. If you look at in 2006, 2007, Xcelsius was the hot thing in terms of visualization, and it was flying off of shelf, and SAP decided to acquire. And I think I can confidently say Steve Jobs single-handedly basically put SAP's analytics roadmap strategy in somewhat of a topsy-turvy, because right after the acquisition, the iPhones took off, but the iOS devices no longer supported Flash. At the same time, when smartphones were taking off, everybody wanted to look at their dashboards in the phone, but Xcelsius did not have a support, and SAP was trying to see for about 2007 to 2010, they were really trying to integrate SAP BW to Xcelsius, and they were hoping that Apple devices will support mobile support will be there for Xcelsius. But guess what? That's exactly when tools like Tableau and ClickView and their market adoption really skyrocketed from 2007 to 2012, when SAP finally decided, oh, it's not going to be there is no real, they try to do an HTML support, but the market really shifted because SAP was somewhat in a kind of a, they were getting big on Explorer at the time, which was also built in Adobe Flash. And somewhere around 2012, they threw in the towel. At that time, they announced that, Design Studio at the time would be the go forward tool for dashboarding capability. Guess what? We are in 2019, 7 years later, Xcelsius is still supported. Yes, it is going to die next year, but you can see the path of Design Studio. And guess what? By the time we come to 2017, Design Studio 1.6 is very mature and users were just thinking of using it. Now cloud is the future. So now SAP is again in a kind of some sort of a dilemma, and now SAP has made it clear somewhere around late 2018 to 2019 that Analytics Cloud will be their future platform of choice. It's not SAP. If you look at every software vendor, cloud is the future. So they are heavily investing into migrating customers to cloud, and Analytics Cloud is obviously going to be the future. But Lumira Designer is obviously still has a very bright future if you are a customer where cloud cannot work. Some of the financial institutions, some of the governments, they still want to continue to be on-premise. So Lumira Designer still is the option for customers that either have a legacy on-premise investment already, so they want to get more mileage for another 5-10 years until cloud really matures. So you have basically the two paths, which basically gives you a good timeline and story of basically Xcelsius as well as some of the SAP's dilemmas with the tool strategy. I touched a little bit on why they have to migrate, but if you really look at it, Adobe Flash, most of the browsers, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, most of the browsers have stopped supporting Flash, which means you have to go and manually turn them on. It's extremely risky because a lot of security issues in an enterprise scenario. Both Adobe and Adobe is completely stopping support as of 2020, and which means SAP cannot also not support both Xcelsius and BusinessObjects Explorer, which are both fundamentally based in Adobe Flash. So which means that's one of the reason we are having this webinar. We need to move out of Xcelsius. All your production Xcelsius dashboards need to get migrated sooner or later, and we are already in end of March, so you got to get moving, and we will be talking about your two options and then how do you go about them. So let's get started with Lumira 2.x because that is still the front runner for the migration. If you look at the Lumira 2.x, I told you about the Design Studio. It got rebranded, or I would say they did an architectural change to bring some of the data discovery's strengths, where the user could do some self-service data preparation and then bring it into Designer and then use a common server add-on. Before it was like, both of them had a separate server. So it was architecturally redesigned, and SAP was hoping that Lumira 2.x is the answer to bringing business and IT together. And they were working in 2016 and 17, and they made a major push towards customers to adopt this architecture. Now, if you look at Design Studio 1.6, SAP has been consistently releasing excellent enhancements to Lumira Designer. 2.0 came in 2017, and then 2.1 and 2.2, and guess what? Next month we are going to have a 2.3 release as well. So you can see Lumira Designer from Design Studio 1.6 has gone better and better, and it is actually very, very mature. That it doesn't technically, it is very, very mature in terms of building dashboards and application that is built by IT. It's not a self-service tool, but it is a very, very mature dashboard application tool. So I touched on how Discovery and Designer can how the self-service data preparation. I just wanted to touch on, can Designer be a self-service tool? Actually, it is not, because the data discovery tool are meant for data acquisition and then able to do the data preparation. Where designer is very strong is visualize, explore, and collaborate. So it assumes that you have a good clean queries. If you have a good BEX query, well-defined BEX query, or a well-defined HANA view, nothing beats designer's capability, because an IT developer could quickly consume. But anytime you have to merge data sources, do data blending, designer is not a good candidate, because it now has to rely on a tool like data discovery. That's fundamentally why a lot of companies look for a self-service BI tool that are very strong in data preparation and data blending. So you can see why the conundrum. So I would almost say, do not try to compare Lumira Designer to an Analytics Cloud, because Analytics Cloud is trying to play the self-service BI market. And I'm sure a lot of you have the question. I mean, looked up the questions. You may be wondering, is Lumira Designer also dead because SAP announced an app design module to Analytics Cloud? Like I shared upfront also, this is right out of SAP's roadmap. Whatever announcement they have done up until now impacts only data discovery. They have a red line mark saying no changes to Lumira Designer roadmap. Lumira Designer will be still supported with 4.3 release, and it's probably well beyond 2026. So if you are an on-premise customer, you should not worry about, Lumira Designer is also dead, so I can migrate to it. So that is probably an incorrect assumption or an incorrect statement. So I thought I would share some of the SAP's official roadmap right out of. If you can see, Lumira Designer is still getting some innovations. It's right out of SAP's roadmap section. I picked it up. Only data discovery is in a support and maintenance mode, except if you look at Analytics Cloud roadmap, they have several pages of roadmap enhancements. The reason is Analytics Cloud is still evolving. They have a lot more features and functionality to add and develop. Whereas if you look at a Lumira Designer product, it has been in the market for close to 7 years. If you think 2012 is the first release, so the product is fairly mature in terms of its capability. So this is something I wanted to also say. Lumira 2.3 is coming out next month, and some of the planned short-term innovations that you can expect out of Lumira 2.3. So in case you are planning to leverage Lumira Designer, something to keep in mind that the 2.3 release is coming, something you could take advantage if some of these features are important for you. So I wanted to kind of play an argument why Lumira Designer is a very, very good alternative to do the migration. So one of the things I wanted to compare is, if you look at the performance between Xcelsius Dashboards and Lumira Designer, from a connectivity to some of the features and capability like backend processing, query parallelization, ability to handle high data volumes, the reusability, the componentization, and a lot of that capability that did not exist in Xcelsius, now you have them available out of the box with Lumira Designer. And something that is very important is a lot of the ad hoc analysis. Something I wish if I had time I would be able to show you a demo, but ad hoc analysis is more like a self-service enablement component, but IT once provides the ad hoc analysis template. You can provide runtime ad hoc analysis, something that you can do with Lumira Designer, something you cannot do with Xcelsius. The interoperability between Discovery and Designer is a very good. The bookmark personalization, ability to handle variants. Now, SAP has improved the scheduling capability of Lumira Designer dashboards, the commentary features, the bookmark sharing. So if you look at all of this, these are something that did not exist in Xcelsius. So you can see you are migrating to a lot better tool. And one of the concern is also about mobile capability. And if you look at it closely, Lumira Designer has very, very good support for mobile, and something we have something to keep in mind. So you can see you are migrating to a very mature tool in terms of mobile capabilities. And the other question is, will it support iOS? Will it support Android? Can I consume by just a browser? That is a huge advantage that Lumira Designer offers. You could almost consume this across all mobile devices and form factors. Which is one huge advantage why you should consider moving your Xcelsius dashboard to Lumira Designer. One of the things that obviously Visual BI has been an early adopter, early innovator from, we were one of the first ones to move from Xcelsius. The company was built around our Xcelsius extension, but as soon as we realized we jumped the wagon on Design Studio, we built our VBX extension. We have over 100 plus customers that use VBX customers. We have a lot of customers that rely on our expertise to deliver dashboards and applications. And our credibility is what helps us, give the right recommendations for the customers. And I just want you to keep in mind, this is an important aspect, the depth of experience we bring to the table in case you are considering migration from Xcelsius to Lumira Design. Let's look at Analytics Cloud, because it is extremely important that we talk about it, because it is something that is a viable option for a number of you. If in case you haven't even started with Design Studio, if you do not have a good business objects footprint, this is something that you can consider. So that's why it makes sense to talk about it. SAP has been focused heavily and investing heavily on making Analytics Cloud as a single platform that can handle BI, planning, predictive, and they just there was even a webinar yesterday on app design. App design will be coming out for general availability later this quarter, that is Q2, not Q1, Q2. And they also made an announcement that they will be working on reporting. So it's going to be interesting on how Analytics Cloud can handle all the use cases. The biggest strength of Analytics Cloud would be that it can connect to your on-premise data sources. It doesn't have to be just simply cloud data sources. Obviously, if you are having SuccessFactors or Ariba, a lot of your cloud ERPs like Salesforce, Analytics Cloud is very easy. Cloud to cloud, it's easy. But one of its biggest strength is it does allow you to connect to on-premise data sources like BW, HANA, or Business Objects Universe without having to replicate the data. I think that is a key differentiator for all of you to keep in mind. So I just gave you a little summary of, I'm not going to read them one by one, but these are the key highlights of Analytics Cloud in terms of capabilities. Fairly mature and developing. So something that is relevant to this topic is I mentioned that app design is SAP is doing something similar to Lumira Designer, Design Studio in the cloud. And it is something very promising. A lot of customers are now excited about the possibility of taking the stories and building some complex applications right in the cloud so that their entire BI can be in the cloud. But what is most important for you all to remember is it's still not generally available. There was even a webinar yesterday, and we will be talking about it at the end, and it's coming out in Q2, but it is something that is the future, but may not be actually ready to get going on day one if you are looking to migrate, and we will talk about that at the end of this, at a later part of this webinar. Something important to a lot of you that are attending here is SAP did mention that they will be bringing enterprise reporting use cases into Analytics Cloud, which means potentially maybe 2-3 years down the line, maybe even some of the Webby features could be done in Analytics Cloud. Something that which technically that means a customer that is currently all the capabilities that you expect in business objects, reporting, office-like capability, like dashboarding, self-service BI, all of that could be available in the cloud. We just don't know exactly when it would be fully available and when mature, but I just wanted to share in terms of the roadmap. So we also, I mentioned, SAP has a robust roadmap for Analytics Cloud. What we also kind of did was try to simplify it for you on what is coming in near term, because a lot of customers don't like, oh, it's coming in 2 years out. That's too far for a lot of customers. So we kind of broke it down. Analytics Cloud has quarterly releases now, what is coming out in Q2. And something that is robust in terms of the roadmap, but then also what is coming out in future with no definitive timeline, something to keep in mind. One of the things that is I wanted to always talk about in explaining is, every BI tool tries to either address by persona or by try to address the self-service use case. But if you look at every organization, 80% of the BI users are simply consumers. They are your executives, they are your managers, your casual users. They don't spend time building the reports. They just consume information. They are consuming analytics. They are looking for insights. So they don't build the reports, they don't prepare the data, but that makes 80% of your BI usage. And Design Studio or Lumira Designer is your best tool to cater to all those consumers, but IT still will have to build it. But if you look at your self-service BI seekers, you have people like data analysts that are really wanting to kind of wrangle data, prepare data, do ad hoc analysis. You have your report analysts, you have your power users, you have your data scientists. Now, these are your self-service BI seekers. They are about probably 20% of your audience. And what SAP is trying to address is part of the modern BI is more about self-service BI. If you enable your analysts, the 20%, they can do in a more agile manner because IT-driven projects are taking longer. So that's one of the reasons, if you look at it, Analytics Cloud is trying to address how can I cater to all the user types on the self-service BI, but still cater to all the 80% of the executives. That's why they have been adding the BI, planning, predictive, because the BI aspects heavily rely on data preparation. Your consumers are not going to do it. That's where the app design that SAP is adding comes into play. And their vision is to add enterprise reporting too. So you can see from a vision and roadmap how SAP is trying to please both the consumer community and the self-service BI community. And guess what? Just a word of caution. It sometimes when you try to do a broad, sometimes you may end up complicating it for the self-service use case because the tool can become so broad that sometimes the self-service or intuitiveness of the tool could be potentially lost. But it is a good vision to address both the self-service BI content creators and the consumers. Now, on the same lines, as part of the webinar, we try to educate the audience. And one of the things that I like to educate is there are 4 different content that are available in the BI space. Obviously, you have your storyboards that are very quick self-service analysis that an analyst could quickly build. You have your formatted reports, picture formatted reports. Then you have dashboards that are really, but then you have applications which are nothing but, several dashboards with several level of drill downs and details, complex application for multi-purpose, multiple audiences, multiple purpose. They usually consume multiple different data sources in a single application. So if you really look at, I've also given you some popular tools. Lumira Designer was the sole contender for a very, very good application design tool. And SAP Analytics Cloud is also trying to come so it can play. I told you about the user types. Now on the content type also, Analytics Cloud is trying to come and hit all the 4 content types as well. But Lumira Designer is already very well established in the applications space as a very, very good tool for developing and delivering business applications. And Analytics Cloud, a lot of customers have been asking us, hey, how good it is, how mature it is. I just wanted to share with you, Visual BI has been recommending Analytics Cloud for a lot of cloud first customers, and the KMG Chemicals is one of our customer. They want to be cloud first, and they have their HANA data warehouse in the cloud. We built HANA data warehouse in the cloud for them, and we rolled out Analytics Cloud 2 years back. So it's 2019, and we rolled them out in 2017, and they have been a happy customer of SAP Analytics Cloud. So there are a lot of successful case studies and references that we can probably connect you with in case you wanted to explore Analytics Cloud. So let's just do kind of a head-to-head comparison. And one of the things, the easiest way is, very get to the bottom of the chase, and let's look at it by the available components level. That's the easiest way to compare, because let's say you have a lot of your Xcelsius dashboards built. Obviously, when you want to compare to migrate, obviously you will have to rebuild, but then nobody wants to completely rethink the components, rethink the whole redesign. They want to do a one-to-one migration. So if you really look at it, one thing that you are going to look at it is, okay, I have a line chart here. Do I have a line chart in Lumira Designer? Do I have a line chart in Analytics Cloud? So you can see if there are certain elements or components where there is available in all the three areas, which means if you are using just those components, then obviously both Lumira Designer and Analytics Cloud are a viable option, unless you are not using the Xcelsius as Excel, pure Excel. But if you are just using Universe or BW or HANA for Xcelsius dashboard, Analytics Cloud is a viable option to migrate. There you have the three. But there are components that are not yet available in Analytics Cloud. And the same thing, Lumira Designer it's also not available, but that's where our VBX comes in there, because it is available with VBX in Lumira Designer, that you could potentially consider to move to Lumira Designer. Let's say, for example, you have a vertical bullet chart or a gauge, for example, and you need to migrate out of it because Adobe Flash support is ending. Your only choice is basically Lumira Designer plus VBX at this point of time. The same way, what we have done is we have looked at the selectors, we have looked at some of the components. Obviously, some components are not modern anymore, so you can't expect SAP Analytics Cloud to deliver them, but it kind of makes sense for you. It gives you an idea. Some of them there is a one-to-one. You can obviously it's an easy migration, but if they don't, that's where you have to think. Same thing on some of the additional capabilities that I've tried to give you a good comparison, so people could use these slides as a reference point. Obviously, one thing to keep in mind is, you have to look at it as a point of reference in time. So this is March 2019. You come June 29 and then try to use this slide, it may not be still valid, because SAP Analytics Cloud may release 4 or 5 more new components, and the metrics would change. So this is with respect to time, you have to keep this in mind. I touched on Visual BI extension. It's heavily used. We have more than 125 customers, large enterprises that use this to improve their usability of Lumira Designer. And I touched on these components as SAP certified and being #1 app in the SAP App Center. So if you really look at it, what we have done is we are giving a library of 50+ charts, extensive mapping capabilities, selectors, utilities, and some templates, as well as some advanced charts like Gantt chart. And all this is to drive the adoption of enterprise dashboards and application with the BusinessObjects customer base. So if you look at it, I touched on, this is extremely popular with a lot of customers because it reduces the development time, to reduces the complexity of the thing. But most importantly, this helps you with Xcelsius migration. So if you think about it, these are some of the components that are missing, that are available in SAP dashboard. Let's say you had a slider, let's say you had a gauge, let's say you had a dial, and you want to migrate from SAP Dashboards or Xcelsius, you do not have a choice but to use VBX in conjunction with Lumira Designer. So these are some of the quick kind of a visual representation of which components that I'm talking about. So in case you are thinking, oh, I need to migrate, so you have to consider them in case you have to migrate to Lumira Designer. You don't have a choice, basically. And just for the audience, I just put it in, what is all available with VBX in terms of charts, a lot of the charts that are available in case you are looking, because you could potentially be having a Lumira Designer project. So this is just giving you a brief overview of, you are getting 100+ different components and so much capability to improve your business adoption and things. We did do a recent release of VBX2 2.4 where we released 4 more new charts and provided theming capability with VBX. Some of the capabilities that came with the recent release of VBX, I just wanted to highlight as well. So coming down, what I wanted to do was also touch on the migration options, some of the things that you have to consider. So the first question will obviously be, everybody will say, oh, Webby is a great tool. Webby seems to be the most safest one on the business objects portfolio. Why not Webby? Why didn't you consider from Xcelsius to Webby? So what we thought was it's a lot easier. And then just we compared Webby's capability to, Webby is a great reporting tool. Don't get me wrong, but Xcelsius is a more of a dashboard and visualization tool. So we try to give you objectively based on several capabilities and how they compare against each other from an end user perspective and from a content creator perspective. So you get an idea about why Webby is not the preferred one. Yes, there are a lot more Webby experts than Lumira Designer experts. Obviously, you tend to like, can I do it? Yes, obviously you can build good dashboards with Webby, but it is not the best tool in terms of the tool's capabilities and strengths. So I just wanted to share this perspective. We do have customers that have asked us, why not just do a Fiori app? We have all our data in HANA. We used to do Xcelsius dashboards on top of HANA. Now why can't we just do Fiori apps on top of UI5 or Fiori on top of it? The same way, we have given you some sort of a easy comparison across various things to just make a decision on why you are better off using Lumira Designer over Fiori as well. So we wanted to basically, rather than give you why Lumira Designer or why SAP Analytics Cloud, I also wanted to share some perspective on Webby and Fiori before we actually go to the meat of it. So we also wanted to give the audience here to give a good idea about what is really involved in the migration. I think this is a very important slide for me to little bit touch. Some of you would have asked question about, is there going to be a tool available to do an automatic migration from Xcelsius to Analytics Cloud or SAP Lumira Designer? The answer is going to be no. The reason for that is the tool sets are different. The underlying technology is different. So what it means is it almost makes an automatic migration almost cumbersome or almost impossible, or even if it was technically possible, the ROI on what the tool would cost to what the customer is willing to pay wouldn't make sense. So I don't see anybody investing in. I don't think so Visual BI is going to invest into it. But what we recommend is that it's a lot easier to just simply rebuild it. You pick the tool, either Lumira Designer plus VBX or Lumira Designer, just if the some of the component, or Analytics Cloud. If it is a very simple dashboard, you look at the requirement, you look at what your query validation and data analysis, obviously it is a time for you to consider to modern visualization design and basically completely rebuild it from scratch. It may be the fastest approach rather than try to do a migration, automatic migration. Even if somebody's trying to sell you one, I wouldn't trust it, because if it was possible, we would have already, Visual BI would have already invested into it and have released it. Our recommendation is you strongly consider migrating into doing a manual rebuild and migration, and you do not have a lot of time. So this is something that we strongly recommend, that you think about a project plan and put a plan in place to do the migration. And we have given you a kind of a high level idea of what is involved in going through the migration process. So last but not the least, a lot of you would have, this is an official SAP recommendation. I thought I would give you as a closing thought. If you are a customer that is want to be in the cloud first strategy, application design will be coming out sometime around June, and depending on what component you are using, we gave you the matrix upfront. You should definitely consider trying to migrate to Analytics Cloud. But if you are a customer with on-premise investments already, our recommendation is, you still have time till 2026. The first step would be to move to Lumira Designer, and you can always reassess. And Lumira Designer will be supported into 2026. And SAP is not saying that Lumira Designer will not be enhanced. All they are saying is there will be selected continuous improvements, because it is a tool that is already mature, which means there is not a whole lot of things to improve upon. Whereas Analytics Cloud's app design is a brand new product, which means there is going to be a lot of news. It's something new. It's cloud, so you will hear a lot more. Doesn't mean Lumira Designer is not a viable option. So that's the key message that I wanted to share with the audience. And I will be going into the questions, but before that, I wanted to touch on, in case some of you are really interested in getting trained. It could be Analysis for Office or Webby or Lumira Designer or Lumira Discovery. Reach out to us. This is something that we help a lot of customers to getting your staff ramped up. And we are going to be coming out with our next webinar for VBI View 2.0, brand new release with exciting features and capability. I would strongly request you to sign up and see what the product has to offer. And I would be now opening up for questions. Okay, I heard SAP Lumira has performance issue. Also, SAP stopped investments in Lumira. So why you suggest Lumira as a replacement for Xcelsius database? So first of all, that's why I started off by saying, these are whatever I shared is official SAP's roadmap and slide. So whatever you hear is just because somebody wants to sell you Analytics Cloud and they have a quota to sell Analytics Cloud. So I would rather let you all decide, do you want to trust official SAP roadmap, printed documents, or one individual saying that this is the thing? I don't think so. Lumira has performance problem. It's still the best tool in case you have on-premise investments. I would say head-to-head compare, and it is not I would say this is a false statement. One of the question is how easy if we want to migrate our current Lumira dashboard to SAC if we decide to move to SAC. It's a good question. There is not going to be any migration path because the Lumira Designer, forget about even Xcelsius, even Lumira Designer and SAC, they are completely a different technology stack or the platform. So SAP obviously will, once app design comes out in Q2, which I'm thinking probably right after Sapphire, or it could be even June. And it is, remember, it is still a 1.0 release of app design. So it may still take some time to mature to the level of Lumira Designer. Only then some migration options may open up, because Lumira Designer, you think about it, it's a 7-year-old tool, very mature. Now you try to migrate to SAC App Design 1.0, obviously you are not going to have the same capability. But if you have a basic dashboard, absolutely, I suggest you should, and if cloud first is your strategy, you should migrate to SAP Analytics Cloud. But there are no automatic migration options available yet. What are the tools that are fading out very soon from the BI convergence? Like I said, I don't think so there is any tool like Webby or Crystal or Analysis for Office or Lumira Designer fading out. It is just that on-premise as a technology in general is not in favor. The world is moving towards cloud, cloud-based tools, and that is principally, it's not any individual tool. So if I were a customer, I would assume pretty much every tool in business objects, maybe 5-6 years from now, everybody is talking only cloud. I don't think so it has to do with any one particular tool. Oh, a lot of questions on Lumira Designer will be out of maintenance by 2020. I'm not sure if I get this point. So I think that's one of the reasons I shared the Lumira roadmap. I've shared what is it. What it is SAP is saying the Lumira Designer tool is actually very, very mature. which means they don't have as much as development to be put into the tool like they would be doing for Analytics Cloud app design, which is just starting to build out. So you can't really compare. They have several pages of roadmap slides for Analytics Cloud versus a single slide. So that's why I've given you things as is. So it's not something you would compare it like that. Rather, you should look at, does Lumira Designer do the things that I want it to do? How stable it is, how mature it is, and that is the approach. And if you already own business objects or you don't own business objects today, so those are some of the decision points, not something with an oh, this is not going to be a thing, because SAP has made it very clear business objects 4.3 release is coming out, which means Lumira Designer will be supported till 2026. Webby will support it till 2026. Ask yourself this question. SAP is going to be building enterprise reporting capability in SAP Analytics Cloud. Are you going to be worried about Webby too? So it's principally on-premise business objects tools that are no longer in favor in terms of greenfield customers, because the greenfield customers today are all wanting to go cloud first. One of the things that SAP covered, what about CSS in SAC? I think they are taking a different approach in SAC. Instead of CSS, they are going to give you a different kind of a configuration option. So SAC's app design will be a little more self-service compared to Design Studio. I think I strongly recommend, there was a webinar yesterday, G did it. I suggest you to dig deeper into app design's capability that is coming out later in Q2. The good question is, do we have extensions for SAC? I wish. Unfortunately, SAC does not have an SDK today. So we may have an SDK maybe right after app design is released for public, maybe after June, and we will definitely do some extensions for SAC. But at this point, we can't even say when we are going to deliver, because we don't even have a software development. No vendor has a software development kit for SAC. So it is something that, but like I said, I don't think so customers should expect, there will be extensions for SAC, but I don't think so we would be needing to do all the 100 or 120 we have for VBX, because the SAC use case is different. It's completely a different product. We will have to see based on what gaps come out, what features and functionality that SAP is not going to invest, that we will be investing into it. There is a lot of question about Lumira Designer's investment. Is SAP's investment will be in SAC, limited investments with Lumira Designer? I think I touched on that question already. I think you have to basically make an assumption based on, that's one of the reasons why I try to give the clarity as throughout this webinar. The question is, do we need to be in 4.3 to best utilize SAC functionality? I would assume so, or I would watch for service packs that come with 4.2, because the main reason of going to 4.3 would be that you get a more extended maintenance with business objects. That's one reason you would be upgrading, not just the SAC integration, better SAC integration. I think I covered on some of the limitations of Xcelsius to SAC or a Lumira Designer to Xcelsius. Can we replace 100% into Lumira Designer? With addition of VBX, we have had successfully replaced 100% of one-to-one functionality for number of customers. We have been doing this for the last 2 years for number of customers, and I think that is technically possible, except unless you have a weird component. But most of the time, we have been able to provide a similar functionality with another component, and we have been able to migrate Xcelsius to Lumira 100% one-to-one. With respect to life expectancy of Lumira Discovery, Lumira Discovery is not getting any enhancements, but it is still supported. So I would, the same thing, if you are using Lumira Discovery and you want to use it for a couple of more years, it is still supported. It's not SAP is not supporting it, unlike in Xcelsius where a support is going to die. But what I wanted to share with you all is, if you look at even Xcelsius, Xcelsius was dying the moment iOS stopped providing support. It's 10 years later, it's still not dead. Yes, it's dying, but it's still not dead. So you have time to properly plan your strategy and move. You don't have to panic, basically. So there is some more questions. I will try to take a couple of more questions just to make sure, and then if I couldn't address, I will try to get back to you by email. Why would I choose Lumira over Power BI? I think I touched on it. I don't know if you are talking Lumira Discovery or Lumira Designer. Lumira Designer and Power BI, they address different use cases, so it's not a fair comparison. And I think we do have an detailed webinar that we did last month where we did a comparison, or last year we did Lumira versus major BI tools like Tableau, Power BI. I strongly suggest you take a look at it, or if you want to have a one-on-one discussion, we can try to explain it to you. Power BI is more of a self-service BI tool, whereas Lumira Designer is more of an IT author tool, more for consumers. So Analytics Cloud looks like more of an advanced version of Lumira Discovery. Should we still leverage Lumira Designer for enterprise dashboard? I think that is absolutely what SAP is also saying, that Lumira Discovery has been 100% replaced with Analytics Cloud, and for all the self-service data discovery use case, you should look at Analytics Cloud as your first option. As of today, Lumira Designer is your strongest candidate to migrate or even do a brand new enterprise dashboard or an application project, because SAC doesn't even have app design out yet. So give it some time, maybe 6 to 12 months later, the answer may be different because how mature app design is. But at present, the recommendation is continue to use Lumira Designer because it's still supported till 2026. Most of the questions are more about concerns about this, so I'm probably going to skip in the essence of time, just trying to see with respect to SAC updates frequently, it's breaking with every update. I think SAP addressed it recently. They used to do a bi-weekly update to SAC. So now the customers can either opt for a bi-weekly update or a quarterly update. If you are really concerned about enterprise stability, you don't want new features, you want to test it and then slowly roll it, I think SAP is giving you an quarterly update option for SAC. That is more from an enterprise use case. That is something that I strongly suggest you take a look at it. With that, I wanted to thank every one of you for attending the webinar. And if I couldn't get to your questions, we will definitely be reaching out to you via email. And thanks, everyone. Have a good day.